For many of us, the scene behind me, this empty auditorium, might be a pretty disturbing sight. We're not used to seeing it like this. We come in on Sunday morning and it's packed and people are greeting and loving on each other, and just it's a great place to be. But when you walk into the room and it's like this, there's something a little disturbing, something that may cause a little anxiety. I know there's a lot of that going around. Right now, there's a ton of anxiety because of this COVID-19. You go to the stores and the shelves are empty when it comes to canned goods or tissue paper or toilet paper or paper towels, or now it's the baking aisle. There's a lot of things missing on the baking aisle now. People are realizing that they can't find it in the store. They're going to have to make it themselves. But I want to tell you that I don't want you to be anxious. Jesus doesn't want you to be anxious. I know it's really hard. Some people that have childhood trauma, my wife, for example, when she walks into the grocery store and the shelves are empty, it just causes her a lot of anxiety, and that's hard. It's hard because of the trauma we lived through as a child or even in our later years. And some of you may be going through very similar things. So don't think that when I say this, it's easy. It's not. But I don't want you to be anxious. Jesus doesn't want you to be anxious. In Matthew 6, he specifically says, don't be anxious. He says, don't worry about what you're going to eat. Don't worry about what you're going to drink. Don't worry about whether or not you have clothes on your back or what kind of clothes you have on your back. He even uses the illustration of Solomon, and all his finery wasn't arrayed like the fields of the grass with the flowers. And he says, don't be anxious. And the answer is down there towards the end of that little set of text. He says, your God knows that you need these things. I was kind of disappointed in my community simply because when you walked into the stores, all the shelves are empty. But it's hard to stay that way because people go through trauma and that drives their behavior. What we need to do now is to remember that God knows that we need these things. God knows that we need to live. He knows that we need to survive. He knows that we need to eat and drink and have clothes on our back. But still he says, don't be anxious. He knows you need these things. And then in verse 33 of Matthew 6, he says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. God's righteousness is what we should be looking for amidst all this anxiety and trauma that the whole world is going through because of this virus. God's righteousness is the answer to calm our fears and our anxieties. I would encourage you to seek him, to seek his righteousness, to look for him, and Jesus will give you the peace that passes all understanding.